There's so much more exposure now for physical therapists, for practices just like mine and yours, to get in front of more residents, more community members, more folks around the area. And they're seeking our services because they don't want to. Hey, welcome back to the Dave Kittle Show. Today we got a solo one. We got a quick one. Just you and I. Here we go. I'm covering this markets and research report that just came out, and our buddy Joe Lowe, L-O-W-E, on LinkedIn, Joseph Lowe, friend of the podcast, friend of the show, friend of Tony Maritato and Jimmy and I, he just posted this. So I'm sharing my screen. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, jump over to the YouTube. We will make sure Nate links this below in the comments of wherever you're watching or listening to this. But anyway, the U.S. Physical Therapy Clinics Market Analysis 2025. $53 billion industry primed for consolidation. M&A activity surges in fragmented therapy sector. Now, again, yes, even though there's really large groups like USPH, Cora, ATI, Athletico that I think merged with ATI, and there's big groups, USPH, NovaCare, Select Medical. Even with that, there's still a lot of fragmented independent clinics that are from 1 to 5, 1 to 10 locations. But regardless, I want to go into this. A couple of the highlights, like average revenue per physical therapy office across the country, $871,000. Pretty good number. And, we've spoken to a lot of owners over the past couple of years and looked at a lot of financials. And yeah, I mean, the average revenue for physical therapy practice is kind of like in that $500K to $1.2 million range of revenue. So $871,000 average revenue per office or per physical therapy office makes sense, as this report is describing. Few national companies. The industry consists predominantly of small and medium-sized regional players with that average revenue of $871,000. There's always been, before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, there's always been this M&A acquisition mode. There's a lot of reasons in terms of obviously reimbursement and payment and those challenges. And there's owners that eventually just get fed up. They got fed up before COVID. They got fed up and the wind sucked out of their sails during COVID. And even now at this point in 2025 and onward, it's always going to happen. There's consolidation in every single industry. It doesn't matter what the industry is. But regardless, let me just stop sharing this. Let me jump over to the YouTube post because I like how Joe commented on this. And then there's some other comments in the comments of this LinkedIn post that I want to share with you guys. So Joseph Lowe here, he captures it really well. So I'm going to just kind of paraphrase that he posted about the physical therapy industry. So why would physical therapy buy up physical therapy clinics? Why would private equity buy up physical therapy clinics left and right if reimbursement rates are declining and profit margins are tight? Why would they do that? And so he posted, Joe, thank you very much for sharing this, because now I'm doing an episode for this because this is certainly interesting. From this report from Markets Research Group and the physical therapy market, $53 billion in gross market nationally across the U.S. And only 29% is from the top 50 clinic groups. And I agree with Joe. He said that's wild. I agree that is wild. 71% of the physical therapy market is small to medium-sized clinics, just like many that watch or listen to this show. And this quote he pulled out of the report: moderate growth is forecast with positive growth drivers, including a stable reimbursement environment, outpatient efficiencies, an alternative to opioid therapy, and strong demand related to client aging. Of course, no pushback there. There's, of course, going to be strong demand from client aging regardless. I think and I've said it before, with things like Facebook video, YouTube video, TikTok, Instagram video, and TikTok video, there's so much more exposure now for physical therapists, for practices just like mine and yours, to get in front of more residents, more community members, more folks around the area. And they're seeking our services because they don't want to be dependent on their family. They don't want to use canes and walkers, and they don't want to end up in retirement homes, but they want to stay active. They want to continue running, playing pickleball, golf, all that type of stuff, right? So I agree with that part. An alternative to opioid therapy, yes. I mean, obviously, ever since the whole thing with the Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family and all that, and all the crackdowns with opioids, I don't know how to track that. I don't know if that's trackable in terms of the mass of people that previously were using painkillers and opioids. And there's still people that use painkillers that are less often opioids or non-opioid medications. But regardless, yes, I agree that I think there's more folks in the US that are looking to find natural ways, healthy ways to overcome pain, impairment, dysfunction, all that. And obviously, we, physical therapy practices and, OTs, and we are primed to capitalize on that, to offer our services that have no side effects, and we help a ton of people. Outpatient efficiencies, yeah, of course. I mean, with outpatient efficiencies, there's things where you can cut roles and staff and make roles redundant if you have multiple offices, and that's why these private equity groups invest in and buy physical therapy practices. And obviously the bigger groups that are like USPH, that's public, and some of the others that are not public, ATI with their whole debacle, that's public. But obviously with scale, with size, you can save on a lot of back office or billing and all that. So I won't push back there. The positive growth driver around stable reimbursement environment. Again, this is not Joe saying this. He pulled this from the report. I do think that is a component. And my buddy Paul, I'm going to scroll down here and make sure we're still sharing the screen. My buddy Paul Mostoff here. Paul, thank you so much for commenting. I want to highlight you real quick. And I do want to have you on my show at some point, Paul. Maybe we can get you on here to discuss this. So Paul said, this is a great post, Joe. Everything you said is true, although I would be careful of conflating private equity strategy, which is often shorter term return, with the long-term health of the industry itself. Yes, physical therapy as a profession will still be around in 20 years, but many clinics may not be. Private equity follows a common repeatable formula by dozens of undermanaged, mismanaged clinics, cheaply bolt them together, wring out the back office costs, again, consolidating all the back office costs that I just mentioned, and eventually sell the new national platform at 2x the entry multiple. And I'll come back to that in a second, what that means. As long as patient volume grows and synergies increase margins faster than reimbursement cuts damage them, the IRR, the internal rate of return, still looks attractive to these firms, the private equity firms that are coming in, that are backing Motion PT Group and backing Cora, and I'm trying to think who, like all the big players, JAG Physical Therapy, like they all have big backers typically that are private equity. Anyway, private equity deal flow is definitely a check mark in that outpatient physical therapy can throw off attractive cash flow at scale over the short term and the short to medium term. But Paul continues to say here in his comment, but it's not a blanket guarantee that every clinic will thrive over the next 20 years. And I said here, I agree with him. There was another comment from Tony Maritato that I'll pull up here in a second. Tony said he agrees with this. He agrees with Joe Lowe, the original post from LinkedIn. And Tony said, the future is bright for a company that treats physical therapy, or any type of therapy, that treats therapy like a business. Leverage operational excellence, economies of scale, and innovation. And Tony says he thinks the days of the small provider groups are gone. Especially, I would definitely agree with Tony if he's saying the small provider groups that have in-network only and no self-pay services, no cash pay out of pocket, all that. 100% agree with that. And he knows I would agree with that specifically. And Tony said, we need to automate the redundancies and inefficiencies out of existence. Many people, more people than ever, need the service. They need physical therapy in the home, or outpatient physical therapy, or occupational therapy and splinting and hand therapy and all that. We just can't operate the way that we always have. And I totally agree. And, Tony, among others, are always pushing the limit in terms of creative ideas around self-pay and cash pay services. So going back to Joe and his post, I do think that the positive growth drivers, he said that, and the report is saying that the stable reimbursement environment, that basically the stable in-network healthcare reimbursement, the payment the physical therapists get or are getting, that has been chopped every single year, most years for the past 15 or 20 years, or at least staying the same and plateaued, that is stable and had positive growth drivers, which, again, I do not agree with. But again, this is Joe pulling this quote out of the report. And this report, you could check the link below. They use WebPT's state of rehab. They use a lot of different resources. They use a lot of the data that's available from USPH, United Physical Therapy, and some of the other information from ATI that's public. So they looked at their financials, they looked at their revenue and their profit and their margin numbers and all that. But nonetheless, I wanted to share this because it's easy to post something like this and kind of pick a side, one or the other. It certainly depends on the practice, the owner, the executive team, the team that's, managing and employing the therapist, that's coaching, training, mentoring the therapist. And it really depends on their model, how they deliver therapy, like how they're generating new patients and leads. Is it some physician marketing? Is it some direct to consumer? Do they have a continuity program where they segue most or many of their patients into, self-pay services or cash-pay services, whatever you want to call them, or remote monitoring or self-pay virtual care, coaching, run program, go from injury, discharge the episodic care, segue them into some self-pay service, using some app like True Coach or one of the other apps where you can have a therapist or some team member write a program for the patient, now the client, writing some type of a workout, like a daily or weekly workout program that they access remotely, that takes the brain of the therapist, it takes the brain of the operation, puts it into this self-pay service for this person to pay however many hundreds of thousands of dollars into the future, weeks, months into the future, for them to assist them in their goal, which is going from couch to 5K or going from 5K to half marathon or half marathon to a full marathon or whatever the role is, whatever the thing is. So just a quick one. I wanted to just post that, share that. I 100%. Oh, and I didn't go back to Paul Mostoff about the 2X multiple. Really, really quick. These groups will try to buy a bunch of practices, put them together, and then sell them to they'll sell them to Confluent, or they'll sell them to USPH, or they'll sell them to JAG or Cora or ATI Athletico, whatever that whole thing is. And so these groups will raise money. They'll buy these clinics, and Paul says a 2X multiple difference. So here's an example. You buy a bunch of clinics that the owners agree to sell to you at a 5X adjusted EBITDA multiple, basically, like we've talked about it before, but after adjustments, the net income and the cash flow of the practice, after you take away your personal expenses, that's your adjusted EBITDA, and you sell to Confluent, and they value your practice at 5X of whatever that number is. And so if you agree to it, then they want to buy a bunch of clinics at, let's just say 5X EBITDA. And then they're going to Motion or whoever, some Motion raise money. They acquire a bunch of practices, which they did over the past 7 or 8 years or whatever. And then they sell them to Confluent. And so Confluent buys them for a 7X multiple. Now, again, these are rough numbers, but that was Paul's example of the 2X difference. I think sometimes the spread is bigger than a 2X difference, but the owners that sell at the 5X is because they're getting out, or they're selling 70 or 80% or sometimes 100%, and they're selling to Motion PT Group or whoever it is. And then Motion PT Group spends a lot of time with their executive team to bolt everything together. They put everyone on the same billing software or billing company, whoever it might be, or in-house billing, put them on the same EMR, the same HR, payroll system, all that. So they make all these things called synergies, and they kind of consolidate all the admin, the back office, all that type of stuff. And then Motion then puts a portfolio together. Ed Mears did this, put almost 100, if not more at the time, and sells those 100 clinics that he rebranded to Motion PT Group, and sells them to Confluent. And I don't know any terms of any of these exits or acquisitions or anything in terms of multiple, but in Paul's example, the 2X difference, Motion then takes those practices that are operating at where, and hopefully they're going to stay the same, maybe grow a little bit, but not grow dramatically between the time that Motion buys them to then when Motion sold them to Confluent. But then let's just say hypothetically, Motion sells them to Confluent at 7X EBITDA. And so Motion basically pockets the spread after they pay back their investors and all that. And so the spread is oftentimes, I mean, it's millions of dollars. So maybe we'll do another episode where we break down what that looks like on a spreadsheet. But for right now, that was just a quick breakdown of Paul's, the difference of the 2x multiple when you sell your practice at a certain EBITDA multiple, but then the bigger guys use the middle range regional guys to package them all up into a portfolio. And then the bigger guys just want to buy the big portfolio. They don't want to buy the onesies and twosies that Motion and some of the regional players did, if that makes sense. So that's it for now. Subscribe to the Dave Kittle Show on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Check Tony, Maritato, Jimmy McKay, and I on Learn Medicare Billing, YouTube, PT Pinecast, YouTube, as well as here, the Dave Kittle Show on YouTube. We go live every Tuesday, Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. That's it for now. Take care. Bye.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE at CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.